Welcome to the Happiness in Retirement Podcast, where we help you turn your retirement dreams into reality. Each week, we'll dive into smart financial strategies, lifestyle tips, and expert insights to help you build a fulfilling and secure retirement. Whether you're planning ahead or already enjoying retirement, this is your go-to place for inspiration and practical advice. So sit back, relax, and let's make your golden years the best years.
Hello and welcome to the Happiness in Retirement Program podcast. I'm Bill Sette, host of this podcast, because the road to retirement should be an adventure, not a survival strategy. Well, we've got a really special podcast today because we have none other than Glen Allen from Sette Capital Management. Hey, Glen, how are you?
Good.
I thought it would be fun and interesting, since this is a podcast about retirement, to do some interviews this year with folks that are in various stages of life, maybe pre-retirement, post-retirement, almost in retirement, and just to really learn and get a handle on just what this whole idea of retirement is all about for folks. And so I thought, Glen, what better place to start with than with you, who you are on the cusp of retiring. I think we've been here once before where you threatened to retire, but decided to stick
I know
with
that.
it. Right. Yeah. Well, for those of you that don't know, I am also part of Sette Capital Management, a registered investment advisory firm. And Glenn has been with the firm how long now?
6 years.
Yeah, a while. Okay, about 6 years. So true story. Glenn, the way he started at Sette Capital was, we were sitting having a meeting one day, and boy, we were short on help. And Glenn just happened to walk up the steps to our beautiful building in Schenectady, New York, and came inside holding his resume. And I said, look, if a guy's out there pounding the pavement, the guy's going to be care about his work, because you just don't see that anymore. And so that was pretty cool. And that's how Glenn came to work with us. He went through some interviews and passed with flying colors, and has been such a part of the team now for, as he said, 6 years. But now Glenn is going to be retiring in June. And so, Glenn, here we are. I'd love to ask you some questions. You ready to answer some questions about retirement?
Sure.
Excellent. So the first question is, how does the idea of retirement feel for you right now?
At this juncture, I feel good about it. Fortunately, being in the business and having worked with you, a lot of the financial preparation and everything, I feel good with. I'm not a person that spends a lot of money. I'm fortunate to have a good benefits package through through my wife. So I feel good about how things are in order. And obviously I've learned a lot, especially since I've been here, about how to manage and set up a retirement portfolio.
Yeah, got it. Interesting. And let me ask you, so here's what I think is a really interesting question. How much of your identity is tied to your work?
A good bit, and I'm glad you asked that, because you and I have talked about this before. And it's the one thing you're always looking when you retire. Obviously, the money situation, your resources, you're looking at your medical and things. Excuse me. But the thing that you don't think about is what your life is going to be. It is very safe to say that my identity is very tied to my job, that there is obviously in this business a lot of stimulus, a lot of positive things, and where that energy goes and where to reshape my life when I'm not doing this is one of the bigger pieces that I need to work out entering into
Wow. Yeah. Powerful for sure, Glenn. And I think most people can relate to exactly what you just said. Work is such a part of, especially American culture and who we are, and especially in the business that we are in. You hit the nail on the head, I think, there. It's such a personal relationship business, and getting to know people, and the work that we do is really gratifying. So yeah, I get it. I sure get it. And on that note, what will you miss? And just as important, what are you ready to leave behind?
I think I'll miss obviously being in the trading end and portfolio management and our being elbowed at, elbow to elbow. It is very stimulating, and it's not even, it is the exact opposite of boring. I'll miss a lot of the stimulus. I will definitely miss like being in the trenches with you and everybody on the team, because someday we're going to sit back and have some fun conversations with millions of stories. And we have a great team, and I'll miss working with them. And obviously helping people and the tremendous people that our client base is. It has been so great to work with them, and I've been fortunate to develop the relationships with them over the period of time I've been here. These folks are like my friends and my partners in bettering their situation, from the employees to the clients and all the good folks I get to work with and help. That's something I'm definitely going to miss a lot.
Got it. Yeah. Wow. Can so relate to that. Well said. But now, what are you ready to leave behind? Let's look at the other end of the spectrum here.
Well, we we work in a field that's very fast paced, that definitely carries with it maybe a little bit higher stress levels than a lot of
Mhm.
other occupations.
You think?
um I think, and as I've gotten a little bit older, it kind of maybe wears on you a little bit more. A lot of the stress and the responsibility are things that I will feel good about leaving behind. There's things that I will miss, but there is also going to be a load that is going to be lifted. But making the adjustments to the fact that I'm not plugged into it anymore is going to be an interesting transition, a very interesting transition. I'm probably going to see things going on with the markets and be very tempted to call you up, have a confab with you on what's going on. As we,
Anytime, Glenn.
yeah, as
You
we've
can
done
reach
constantly.
out anytime.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get it. On the one hand, absolutely. We're just so blessed to be in a career that we are in that is always exciting, ever changing, always stimulating the relationships we build with people. But the flip side of that is exactly what you said, where it is high stress, high responsibility, and that can be good sometimes, but sometimes not so much. And definitely going from your role, especially in trading and client service, to waking up one day and just hearing the birds chirping and what am I going to do today? That's a totally different lifestyle, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, one thing that won't be surprising is that my wife, Fran, looks at me and she knows what I am like and how important and how integral that this job is. And she just keeps kind of smiling, saying, "You are going to drive me crazy because you are going to be climbing up and down these walls." And it'll be a transition. It's been a very welcome part of who I am. You feel good about what you accomplished. You feel good about the fact that you do something that's important. Feel good about the fact that you are somebody, if that makes sense.
My goodness. Yeah. I mean, that's a brilliant insight and so true. There is a person who is still a client to this day who many years ago, one of the first people that retired with me as an advisor so long ago, and they lost, I think, 25 pounds in a few months, and just went through kind of a depression because you can be so tied to your work and
I
your
wouldn't mind dropping a
identity.
few pounds.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want the depression, but losing a few pounds would be fantastic.
Well, yeah. And so there is some anecdotal evidence, if not actual factual evidence, that men actually relate more to their work than women, in the sense that when they retire, they go through, not everyone, obviously, but a lot of folks, men go through this transition that can be depressing, painful, sad. whatever it may be, more so than women. That may be changing now, but certainly, how many people get to build the relationships like you've been able to build at Del Sette Capital with these folks? And that's going to be tough, I would imagine. But having said everything we just said, what are you most excited to have time for now?
I think that, I'm most excited to have time for looking at what I want my life to be and putting that picture together. I mean, obviously, it's going to be nice not to have a lot of time pressure. It's going to be nice to have more time to think. Dealing with my aging parents and being able to physically be with them and assist them and to pay some fuller attention to everything involved with them will be good. The piece of it that involves volunteer work and, probably like a heightened involvement, with my parish and things on that side, I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to exploring different. I have a beloved hobby. I have a beloved hobby in terms of like ceramics collecting with Southwest Native American pottery and with antique stoneware. Can I get in where there's some money to be made there, or even just have a very satisfying involvement if it doesn't involve cash? There's lots of interesting routes to go down. I'm interested in enough things where I'm going to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and certainly being involved with the market in terms of my own accounts and things of that nature. Maybe a heightened involvement is something else. I mean, I love the stock market. That's a lot of why I've been in the business, a lot of why I'm here. And that love of the stock market and reading Barron's, the Wall Street Journal, and crashing up CNBC every morning, still constantly being involved with what's going on through every trading day is going to be a part of it until I die or completely lose fucking.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you're so lucky that you like what you do so much that you're going to continue with at least some aspect of it. What I'm hearing you say is caregiving. I mean, my goodness, that's such a responsibility, and now being able to do that, not having to be worrying about work, but also being more involved in your church and spirituality. I mean, how cool is that? That you sounds to me like you've got some things that will fill up your time, and that's pretty cool. Do you imagine then that in retirement, your retirement will be more structured, or is it going to be something more open time wise?
I think it's going to be a little bit more open time wise. That's what I want. I tend to be like that. I'm kind of, when you're working, I'm very geared toward productivity now, where I can kind of tell you like what I'm going to do every day. I definitely want to open that up. When I retire, it'll be more flexible, but I'm still going to operate when I determine it with a game plan that I'll follow. When it's just kind of like getting everything in the right amounts as much as I can control it. But there's so many things out there now and great opportunities and avenues open up today in things that you didn't even think about. And you try to have a mindset of where you keep yourself open. I mean, I can remember, Bill, with the phones, where I said to myself, I said to Fran one day, hysterical, I can't imagine being one of these idiots that walks around and pounding your phone with your thumbs all day. And now, guess who can't be more than 3 inches away from this thing like ever? But it's just that there's a lot of things that happen you didn't even foresee. So you try and keep yourself open to all the nifty things that could happen that could present opportunities for you for activities or whatever. I'm really trying to get conditioned, even as a older guy, to have more of an open mind, because you see in this world the great possibilities and the multiple avenues.
Oh, it's so true. To have all these possibilities available to us. All you hear is the negativity and the doom and gloom out there. But you're absolutely right. I mean, we have in the palm of our hands this technology. Anything we want to learn at almost zero cost, uh, is right there. Do you remember when? Now this is going to date us, right? But do you remember when someone would knock on the door and it would be the encyclopedia salesperson? When you'd buy the letter A in
Oh
the
yeah.
Encyclopedia
And
Britannica,
I had a
or
nice,
would you?
and I had a nice set, probably Britannica when I was young. And it was like treasured. Now everything gets so dated. But yeah, it was great. I remember I had all my CFP textbooks back when I studied for the CFP. Oh my God, everything in there is completely dated now. But like you said, now you Google search, you get a lot of this AI generated content, which immediately presents you with all this great information.
Yeah,
That'll help me with another challenge. I'm not a particularly handy person, but a lot of the aids out there in a greater amount of time is going to allow me to take on some things with my home that I probably would not have done. And it's
just
really
go.
easy when you're working, when you're doing all right, you're making money. It's a very easy decision to pick up the phone and get Joe Blow or whoever to fix what's got to be fixed. I'm kind of interested with more time and these resources on seeing what I can do to help
Oh, that's
myself.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And so assuming, right, we're financial planners, we're retirement planners. I'm assuming that the math works for you. Okay. And we're not going to go into any of your personal details, but what worries still linger? So the math works. What worries still linger for you?
Well, the thing is, in my particular situation, I'll share that maybe like a lot of folks, I don't have a pension. And when you look at, I'm not so much in a normal, but let's face it, it's like when you look at the normals in this particular area, there's a lot of state employment and a lot of folks my age have that pension. I don't have a pension. I've been fortunate to know investing and get better and better at it and build a nest egg. But you think about, and even though I'm well schooled in the history of such things and have been through a million projections, you're still aware of the fact that your picture is very market dependent. Even as somebody in doing what I do, I'm obviously a huge believer in the markets. So you think about that. You're going to have
Oh,
swings. You're going to have to be smart in the ways that you manage money. Fortunately, I've learned a lot of the techniques, but it's a concern. It's definitely, it's definitely a concern. But this
yeah.
point, oh, go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I mean, this is what we do. And it's one thing to know about retirement planning and to talk with someone about retirement planning, and to give them reassurances about retirement planning tools and techniques. But until you're sitting in that seat where it's you retiring and now it's real, that's a whole different ballgame than us talking to someone about the safeguards that are in place. And we can give all the reassurance in the world, and folks have to have faith and all of that. But until you are in that seat as you are now, that's a really good point. It's a different when it becomes real like that. It's the difference. I think maybe a good analogy is we'll never know as men what it's like to be pregnant or give birth. And they say, right? They say that it's not real for the man until they're holding the baby in their arms. It's like, whoa. Um, Retirement, to talk about retirement, to be retirement planners for many years, to have all this knowledge, et cetera, is one thing. But as you said, being a retirement planner, now it's you, and it's like, okay, yeah, you're still going to have those concerns. And interesting, great insight, great insight. And so, what do you not want your retirement to become?
The thing, when a lot of times too, there's like, I think for a lot of us, there's dynamics to work out always as a couple, and I'm married, and a lot of your philosophies, can vary. And the thing for me that I don't want more than anything is I do not want to constantly be worried about money and about how much I'm spending. I'm fortunate because I am a relatively frugal person outside of, the art collecting um that I've done. But I don't really want to worry too much about what I'm spending. When I have a tendency to not worry so much And my significant other is someone who gets really concerned about such things, honestly. And what really concerns me is I don't ask for a lot, but I just want to have enough of a lifestyle. And the biggest thing is I don't want to worry about money. I do not.
So, yeah, so you do not want your retirement to become just a daily worry about money, watching the markets in the context now of, well, my goodness, right? We've talked people off that ledge our whole careers. And now all of a sudden you're in the other seat as well as we just talked about it. And yeah, so I could see that and not worrying about money. I could definitely see why you would not want that. Why retire then? If you're going to worry, what's the point? Easier said than done, but a leap of faith and all of that. So, and armed with tools and knowledge that hopefully will be helpful along the way. Let me ask you a question that, since of course you're not in retirement yet, but having been a retirement planner and getting really close to your retirement, what do you think people misunderstand about retirement the most? Where do you think there's a misunderstanding about retirement?
I think there's a couple things, Bill. The biggest thing that sticks out for me in doing this a long time is, I might have talked about it before. People generally do a good job of on the monetary side, and they do a good job, and they understand that medical piece and having something in place, and they understand things like growing your money is one thing, but when you get to the fine art of distributing it so that it doesn't run out, that it's properly allocated, that it's done tax efficiently, that's something people need help with. But the biggest thing I think that people miss that we talked about, where a lot of people that I work with retirement come back to me with, is they never think about what we discussed, what their life is going to look like. I mean, I know and we know people that took jobs, not saying it's bad at all, but that were janitorial at schools and took any type of busy work because the biggest thing that you miss is what your life is going to look like when you don't have your job, which for most of us is a huge part of it. And for me is a big part of it. That's the biggest thing that gets missed. I think the second biggest thing that gets missed, and I kind of went over this ground, is like a lot of people invest well enough and maybe they had professional guidance where the growth piece worked out for them really well, but they underestimate, and this is where advisors come in, they underestimate how important it is. A lot of people, it's so common, a lot of people build up a good sum of money, and a million times we get asked this question, oh my God, how do I monetize this? How do I even draw on this? What type of strategies do I use? What do I even do? That's probably the second biggest thing that gets missed. And where people wisely turn to advisors is like a lot of folks are not comfortable crafting the distribution strategies. They might have invested in the S&P all their life and made a ton of money, but now you're playing a completely different game.
That's a great point. It truly is totally different. It's easy, relatively easy to say, relatively easy. But when you get into that phase where you're taking money out, wow, you're absolutely right. And there's a couple of things here too, and anecdotally and in the work that we've done, I think people forget that they have, or they don't think about the fact that we have a limited window of health. We don't know how long that is, that we're going to be able to enjoy what we've worked for to its fullest. And at some point, something's going to happen and that window is going to close. So it's tough because people want to enjoy their money. But as you said, they're concerned about the market. So on the one hand, maybe the thought is, well, if I enjoy more of the money now because I'm healthy, but then I'm going to have less later. And what happens with the market, if something happens with the market, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an interesting thing. And yeah, it's an interesting thing. What advice would you give someone 5 years behind you? Someone who is 5 years retired.
If you don't really have a handle on it yourself, it's good to talk to an advisor. You really want to start getting a good handle on your plan. I've known where the medical, is going to come from for a long time, but you really want to start thinking about your plan. You have to perhaps 5 years out, I think you have to start looking at your investments a little bit differently. And it's very important to tailor the risk to your goals. You have to look at the investment adjustments, and you have to definitely 5 years out, if you're not doing it yourself, you've got to be connected with somebody who has good retirement planning software, because definitely 5 years out, you want to start running the projections based on everything you know about your goals, how much money you're going to need, inheritance for the kids, in or not. Is there something I always wanted, which a lot of times is summer home, expensive trips, etc. You want to be dialed into that, and you want to be doing projections about 5 years out. If you see shortfalls, if there's shortfalls, how do I address them? A lot of it's very practical. You know, I don't have a pension. I don't have a pension. I'm going to be relying on drawing some income from my investments. So what do I look at? More money. And I knew 5 years ago, that going out to where we're at now, let's say, where I'm going to be very close to 68, was definitely going to be in the cards for me. And fortunately, it's worked out. That additional asset accumulation, that additional savings, like in this 5 year run, and fortunately with a great period in the markets, has meant everything to me. Without that, I would not be sitting here in a position where I could even think about it.
Wow, great point. And I was just thinking when you were talking there, something you said resonated with me, that we're so lucky to be in this business and apply our craft to ourselves, our own retirement. Because I don't know what people do who aren't in the business. Quite honestly, there's so much information out there, conflicting information, and my goodness, to be a consumer these days with this stuff always in your face, where you can see the markets night and day, 24/7, which, let's face it, investing is not a short term spectator sport,
Yeah,
and people can
definitely.
make bad decisions, you know, being sucked into the negativity and all of that. And so we're really lucky that we're in this business. And so we can do those things that you said 5 years, starting 5 years ahead of time. What is one thing you know for sure about retirement?
There's not a lot I know for sure. I know that I'll have free time. I'm confident about it being, very enjoyable and rewarding. But there's a lot about, the unknown, that I just don't know. Like I said, it's hard to know how things are going to play out. Being as plugged in as I am through my job and in this occupation I am, is being unplugged going to work out? I will enjoy the free time. I will enjoy more time with my parents. I'll enjoy more time with hobbies. I'm definitely going to enjoy the free time and the flexibility more, but I'm still going to have to get there to really know how this whole thing works out.
Well, it sounds like a great American retirement. Really does. Time with family, helping your family, spirituality, hobbies, the good stuff. And so, on that note, if we were sitting here 3 years from saying we were looking back, what needs to have happened for you to say, "Man, I'm so glad I'm retired when I did. This has been awesome."
Well, the obvious thing is that I would be happy, and I would be feeling less stress, and that my life was rewarding. I mean, everybody looks at things differently, but this meaning is important. Obviously, right now, I'm in a situation where, as much as this legacy means, it's not about the fact, I did well, but it's not going to be about the fact. I'm not going to look back and say I made 10 mountains of money. It's going to be about the fact that I helped so many people. That's going to be my legacy more than anything. And so, an important part of it, Bill, is that in whatever other capacities there are, at least for me, I'm going to be involved in activities where I'm still helping people, even if it's in a different form. I'm still going to be helping people And I'm going to be able to say in 3 years that there's still a lot of meaning in my life. And the other thing is, this is just my opinion, I could never do it, but I think that daytime TV stinks.
From the
For as much
school
exposure as for as much
and
exposure.
from the school and, Days of Our Lives would be on.
Yeah.
What was that trash TV? What was the guy's name who had the reality show? Anyway, yeah. Right. Just sitting around and watching television. There's a book.
You know what's on when I'm home all day? Which will stun
Hold on,
you
let me guess.
zero?
Reruns of MASH.
CNBC. Not
Oh,
that,
of course. Right. Yeah.
not
We
that.
used right. Right. Well, there's a brilliant book, a classic book called Man's Search for Meaning. And it's by a guy, his name was Viktor Frankl. And Viktor Frankl, his whole family died in the concentration camps in Nazi Germany. And he was in there too. He lost everyone. And what he noticed, he was a psychiatrist by training. What he noticed, the people that survived that were the ones that had a reason. They had meaning. They had something to look forward to. And so now, the research around meaning is really what it's all about in life generally. So what you just said about, this career of yours has given you so much meaning, but now it sounds to me like you already are really clued in on that meaning. It matters so much. And you go do these things that are meaningful to you. Again, I just keep hearing, helping your parents out, doing stuff at your church and hobbies and pottery. And you're going to find a lot of meaning outside of work. So that's pretty cool. And, the fact that, you had said that some people, they don't start thinking about those things. Yeah.
But
And,
there's
and
so
you have,
many elderly folks, that I know, friends of, whatever. And I've had so many people, and I'm one who I respect a lot the wisdom, of older folks. And I have had so many people tell me, Bill, in so many words, keep your mind moving, stay busy, keep your mind moving. I have heard that so many times, and I'm just like really starting to get it. And the people that tend to do better are the ones in general that live their life like that are active with whatever they're active with, or they like to read, or they're constantly involved with their family, whatever their thing is. But I hear that all the time. Stay busy and keep your mind moving, keep thinking, read, whatever you got to do to stimulate that noggin, you do it.
what great advice. Very cool. One last question before we finish up. What's on your bucket list? Like, do you have anything that you have to do or be or have?
I think it's going to be really I think it's going to really be in line with what a lot of people look at. One that's not really too difficult to attain is Italy, which Fran would really enjoy, which I would enjoy. And the other thing is, not widely traveled in this country. I would really like to get around a lot more. And Fran and I both enjoy it on the road. So some of it with more time is going to be getting out of airplanes and literally pounding pavement. I wanted to, the travel is travel is maybe, I think the biggest part of that. I don't know if it will happen. I am very fond of Santa Fe, New Mexico. It is kind of the center of my South American pottery world, and New Mexico is a place which is so much different than the Northeast where I am, but carries a lot of appeal to either permanently live there someday or to be able to spend a more significant amount of time there is something that I would really like.
Santa Fe. Wow. Sounds wonderful. Wonderful. I said only one more, but I am going to ask you one more. And I think this is important for the folks that are like you at this stage, at this point of time. Given everything going on around the world today, what are you most hopeful about? We hear all the negative stuff. What are you most hopeful about given the state of things in the world today?
Like you and I both know a lot, when you are involved in the market, you have to be an individual who believes in the power of what folks can do. And the thing is, if used the right way, and we're still in infancy with this, the tools, AI, etc. what we have at our disposal is going to give us the opportunity really to innovate, to be able to work on some some of the baddies like diseases or cancer that affect us, to be able to make inroads into being able to get food out to people that need to get food. I really know that if we get our act together, that as a globe, we could elevate. I believe that we can do that. I'm hopeful that we get back into cycles where finally everybody is going to realize that this thing only works if we all as nations collaborate. And I think that we're going to get back to a point where we're going to realize that our greatest economic and quality of life victories are going to be won when we collaborate as a globe and we pull together, because I still believe that can happen, because I believe that at some point it's going to become obvious to everybody, that it needs to happen. I can't even say that word, but isolationism, whatever, this is my feeling. It's not the way to go. We need to pull together as a globe. And if we do that, it's just going to be tremendous in terms of what can be accomplished.
Yeah, that's something to definitely be hopeful for, Glenn. Well, listen, thank you for being the first interview on the Happiness and Retirement Program podcast. You're not just a client, you're an employee, right? I don't know. Did I say that right? You're
What's
not just
that hair club for men thing? What's that hair club? I'm not just,
I think so, right? I think that was
like
a
that. I'm a
commercial for that.
customer.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, folks who are tuning in. Glenn isn't planning on leaving until he's got a few months at least left. But thank you, Glenn. This has been very insightful, and I'm sure everyone is going to enjoy listening to this. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Those of you that are clients, shoot Glenn an email. Wish him the best of luck for the second time.
Yeah, this time it's for real.
As I mentioned, Glenn was going to retire a while back and changed his mind, but only after we had a nice dinner for him and announced his retirement. But we hope he sticks around as long as he wants.
I got some great perks, and then I stayed. I didn't engineer it that way, but it sure worked out.
Well, it worked out for us too. We all got to go out and pay homage to you and have a nice dinner at a wonderful Italian restaurant. And I'll be able to do it again. So thank you, folks. Thank you for tuning in. This has been a Happiness Retirement Program podcast. Subscribe, shoot us an email, give us a call if you have any questions. And until next time, let's hope that your road to retirement is just a great adventure. Talk to you soon.
That's it for today's episode of the Happiness and Retirement Program podcast. We hope you found some valuable insights to help you create the retirement you deserve. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's planning for their future. For more tips and resources, visit happinessandretirement.com or the Sette Capital Management Facebook page. Until next time, here's to a happy, healthy, and financially secure retirement. Sette Capital Management, LLC, Sette, is a registered investment advisor. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where Sette and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. For additional information, please visit our website at www.happinessandretirement.com. All information has been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. There is no representation or warranty as to the current accuracy, reliability, or completeness of, nor liability for, decisions based on such information, and it should not be relied on as such.